1 year ago-ish, me and my developers started making a game called Z/, where you fight zombies with a roster of characters and a selection of abilities for each. The reason for the game was because we all love making games, we wanted a game that was loved by the community, and money. But mostly the first two. The current state of the game is decent, I'll come back to that later, but this video is a summary of that entire year of development. It's not insanely detailed since I do go in more detail in other devlogs, but it does highlight all the important things that occurred. Now with that out of the way, join me while we dive deep into the ups and downs, ins and outs of Z/. Enjoy. Alright, to quickly summarise the start of the game, we have Water Flavoured Orange, or just Orange for the rest of this video, who came up with the idea for Z/. He told us it'd be a hack and slash, parry and COD-like game with waves of zombies, including zombie types like tank and fast. He also mentioned different maps and character selections. However, this section here was put off from development due to the idea being too large for us to handle. As you can tell, the current idea we have is too big, so that would have pushed development time even further. After we all agreed that this would be our next project, we all got to work. The first month of development on Z/ was very motivated and strong. The only regret I had about the start was the minimal amount of planning and cooperation we had. This issue usually backfired many times later in the journey. We'll get into those later. In this image, the first slasher concept was made by Orange until Comfort took over and began concepting art for all four characters: Slasher, Hammer, Blaster and Mage, where if you've been following along with the game for some time now, you'll notice that Mage was completely scrapped. The reason for this was it would add another character for us to make, so instead we agreed to hold back on a fourth character until a future update. These concepts were then used by Orange to model Slasher and Hammer within the first month. Slasher's first iteration looked like this, but eventually turned into the model that we'd used until recently, with slight bumps along the way, like how the hell did this even happen? During this time, I got straight to work on scripting how the characters would work. Since Comfort also designed all the character stats and abilities, I was able to script them. We can see a big difference with all the character abilities then and now. Blaster was originally going to have a secondary gun for the hypershot ability, which would have been much larger than the default one used. Slasher was going to have a swipe ability. We changed this later on because the swipe was literally just a stronger M1, and I'll get back onto that later on. Finally, Hammer was going to be completely different, having a hammerhead attached to a hook and chain that he'd use to grapple enemies and bring them closer to him. But back then I had no idea how I would have made that, so we simplified him down to a basic Hammer melee character. Alongside this early footage of Slasher gameplay, Orange made some of the early Slasher attack animations which were scrapped and remade later on by Chinino. Once the basic abilities and character logic for Slasher was made, I decided to give a crack at making the lobby. At the time we had no GUI designers on the team. We still don't, but we've improvised. This forced me to use very basic GUI to provide a structure in order for me to code the lobby system. This lobby system included parties, the shop and inventory, credits, and an update log. Orange was very active at going around almost every single skill and trying to help there, which therefore led him to create the second version of the lobby art that I implemented correctly the first time. Nearing the end of the first month of development, Orange was modelling Hammer's, well, Hammer, which looks very different to the current Hammer model. But in the end, he changed it to have a hook, and we've kept the same model since. Going through all of the things we did actually, Orange did quite a lot of work in the early days of Z/, with him also giving us map ideas, including the Abandoned City map, which is the current map we're using. Finally, for Orange's contributions, he designed some music that was unused, since we got a professional music creator called Moret, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right, on the team to help with the game's music. And at the very end of September, I released my first devlog on Z/, which got a decent amount of views. Although this month was large and full of development, the following months were not, unfortunately. Following the events of September, I found a guy called Garbage, Ventini, or Demoris? He has a lot of different names, okay? But he said he'd help with the game's GUI issue. He died the next couple of days after that, but founded the second iteration of the lobby GUI, which was amazing for me, since I'm not the biggest fan of making GUI. October was a very dry month for progress. Everyone on the team at that time was still developing slowly though. This was mostly because October was the month that I did my traditional horror game in 1 month challenge. So I slowed down the work on Z/, and yes, I'm a trick-or-treater was made. The video is on my channel if you want to watch it. Probably my favourite horror game that I've made in one of these. Anyway, back to Z/. Comfort gave us a map concept called, wait for it, drumroll please, Baseplate. I know, right? What a revolutionary name. Guys, you can stop now. But I said you can stop! This idea was later brought up in a video, and the Discord's moderator made his own concept for the Baseplate map, so we'll add that as a map in a future update. Probably. Also, speaking of the Discord, if you have any questions about the game or want to see any exclusive and early sneaks of the games I'm making, which don't just include Z/, by the way, then join the Discord from the link in the description. I'm waiting. After the Halloween game released for Halloween, who guessed, I immediately got back to work on Z/, and so did the others. Comfort brought out some lore for the game, which I still don't fully understand. Look at that. The creator of the game doesn't even understand the lore of his own game. Yes, that's true. I have no argument. I'm lazy and very stupid. Not knowing the lore will almost definitely come back and slap me in the face later on. Now, if you backtrack to when Orange made the ideas for some maps, oh, you don't remember? Here. With him also giving us map ideas, including the abandoned city map, which is the current map we're using. Yeah, remember it now? What do you mean, no? I literally just showed you it. Anyway, Orange decided to make a theme song for the Candyland boss, which is a giant marshmallow. This song was never used, and the Candyland map isn't even being thought about yet, so it was very random for him to make that, but it exists. Speaking of maps actually, Comfort and Spooky made the concept for the city map layout, therefore allowing Comfort to build the map later on in development. All characters were finally modelled by this point, but Blaster wasn't coded properly until around May time, and there are reasons for that which I will also get into later. The characters being finalised allowed Orange to start working on the zombie models in November, therefore allowing Spooky to create these very cool renders of Fast Zombie. Additionally, I worked on the zombie AI and released a devlog going over that, so if you're interested in that video, then it's on my channel and probably in the top right corner now. The next devlog was not released until 4 months after that. Since we started on the zombies, we needed to actually think about all the zombie types. This is where the lack of planning kind of hit us, as during that time we didn't have any bosses except the placeholder Big Boss, which, as you can tell, is not a great name or design at all. So Comfort whipped up some really good boss concepts that we know as today, once, twice, and thrice. I think Garbage, the guy that started helping with the lobby GUI, left us around this time, which left me to create the rest of the GUI alone, and you can probably tell that wasn't a good idea. But that GUI doesn't stick forever. Finally, for November, I got CE24 to help find some sound effects and VFX for the game, since we didn't have a specialised developer in either of those skills, and the toolbox is very helpful for both of those assets. In the previous 2 months, I made a few small games to fill in the long gaps of video uploads on YouTube. These videos performed extremely well, considering previous videos I've made before that, and I thought that I had done enough on Z/ at the moment with having the round system, zombie AI, character abilities, and the lobby done. This allowed the other developers to make more assets for me to code later on, so I could focus on the YouTube channel during that time. I made a few successful videos where they slowly started to die off until I made a game called An Upside Down. An Upside Down was made very poorly since I gave myself a strict 1-week schedule to upload videos. This schedule sacrificed quality for quantity. After a few updates to that game, I realised this and quit development on An Upside Down. It was definitely fun and refreshing itching to work on. However, Z Slash was calling me back, so from growing my channel to over 20,000 subscribers, I thought it would be a good idea to go silent for a while to cool off on YouTube and lock in on Z Slash. This break is probably half the reason why my videos perform pretty bad now. However, with this break from YouTube, I was able to add a lot of content to the game, including this list of things. Okay, so according to my work progress, not a lot was made during the month of January or December. I did find someone called Melon who offered to help with the zombie AI and round system, as mine was lacking optimization and good code layout. Unfortunately, after a while, Melon wasn't responding to us anymore, so we had to, execute him. But he did really help us with the round system and zombie AI. December also introduced 3 other devs who have stuck around: Moret, our music composer, Pan, another scripter, and Janino, our animator. I will master that name at some point. Moret composed the lobby theme for Z Slash, which made me make Z Slash into a horror game for some reason. Not sure why I did that, but Moret has been doing an amazing job at making the music for the game. Pan saw the horrific way I was creating hitboxes and offered to make a hitbox module for us, so he got to work on that. He also created these animated boards in the city map. Finally, Janino joined us and made this questionable animation for some reason, but also started on the proper character and zombie animations later on. Comfort also started building the city map with probably too much detail, but there are a lot of secrets and cool references to previous games in there, so it's fun to spend some time looking around the map. After 6 months of development, I have learned a lot about making games, especially managing a team and keeping on top of things like planning and giving tasks to people. At the start, the game was all over the place, which meant a lot of planning carried out until 8 or 9 months after development started. For example, we only recently decided on our final ability for Slasher, and that's only one of many complications we've had, which is another reason why this game is taking so long. During February, I created a forum channel in the developer Discord called Diverted's Dev Hall, which hints to our Discord that I've already plugged called Diverted's Duck Hall. This forum channel was named Finish Work, where all the finished work would go, as a lot of the channels in the server were used for a lot of yap and planning things. This meant that important finished work was being drowned out and I couldn't find them very easily. Unfortunately, we have since abandoned that forum channel for some reason. Not sure why, but it kind of just disappeared. Other than that, nothing happened in February. March was an interesting month though. I finally had enough content to talk about in a devlog, so I made another devlog. This devlog covered a range of different things that were made throughout the 6 months we've been working on the game. For example, it went over the new dev screen and spectating system additions. I also mentioned that I tried making my own GUI designs, which looking back on them are very disgusting. Other than those new additions, the rest of the video went over some interesting points from earlier months that I've already gone over. The video also explained why the game was taking so long to make, so if you're interested in that, then you can go watch that video. But basically, we're taking so long because most of us are lazy and have school. The joke of Z Slash not releasing for ages was turned into many GIFs like these, and there were also some very realistic working condition GIFs like these. From now until the 9th to 10th month of development, I've forgotten the order of events that occurred, so they'll be in a random order. First thing on my list is Pan finally finishing the first version of the hitbox module for me to implement into the game. This is revolutionary to the gameplay since it's 99% of the gameplay. Of course, I had to update it and make amends to it to fit Z Slash's awful code structure, which was done over a period of time we'll never know because I don't remember and didn't document it. Just like a lot of content in this video. Comfort also finished the city map around this time. It wasn't actually used for gameplay until recently, so we just used this simple baseplate map until I was actually bothered to add the city to the game. Finally, for these 3 months we changed Slash's swipe ability to a dash ability instead, as it's more interesting than a higher damage M1, which I slightly talked about earlier. We also had the usual development progress on art, animations and music too, but nothing too amazing to talk about. Something that happened during the earlier months was a conversation or announcement from me, which stated that I expected a February release date. Obviously that did not happen, but in around March, I said that we'd have an early tester release in May. And again, that obviously didn't happen, so I've learned from my mistakes and I will keep my mouth shut until I 100% know when a release date will happen. Z/ will release. Earlier in the video I mentioned that Blaster's model was complete but his abilities weren't. The biggest reason for this was that I kept having to recode how the characters worked because of flaws and limitations in my previous code. By the time that I finished this, it was already April or May. Luckily I had finished both Slasher and Hammer and only Blaster needed coding. However, Blaster works differently to the other characters. He doesn't use a melee weapon, he uses a blaster gun. This meant that I had to practice and learn how to make projectiles, which is exactly what I did. I looked around online and found a useful video that went over 2 helpful modules that improve how projectiles work. I also saw this as an opportunity to make a quick little game as a break from Z/ and also to record a video since the channel looked a bit dry without much content around this time. After the video was released, I was happy with working with the modules, so I went straight to Z/ and implemented the code into Blaster. This all took a while to do, but I eventually got it working pretty well. All I needed to do now was make the zombie bosses work, especially Twice and Thrice, as they both have guns. While doing this, I found a slight limitation with the module I was using. The guns could only shoot 1 bullet at a time, so the next bullet would have to wait for the previous bullet to be destroyed before a new one could be made. I'm really lazy, and I'm trying to get out of this habit, so I didn't look up if the module could use more than 1 bullet at a time or not, like I missed something about the module or I just implemented it wrong. This issue was mainly noticeable on Blaster since you're playing as him. A fix I found for this was to increase his cooldown to allow the bullet more time to be destroyed. Thrice was the most annoying character to fix this issue with, since he has 2 Tommy guns that, if you know anything about guns, fire rapidly. This meant the cooldown trick wouldn't work this time. But luckily it's not that noticeable, so we're just gonna leave it for now. Ever since the beginning of Z/, we knew that the character models wouldn't stick around, mostly Hammer and Slasher as Blaster looks fine as he is. So during this time, Orange had modelled all characters and zombies, leaving him with pretty much nothing else to do, therefore allowing him to remodel Slasher and Hammer to look more detailed and have, you know, actual clothing. After this, Orange was tasked with modelling the skins. Skins were a long time cosmetic item that we were thinking of. Comfort made tons and tons of concepts for different skins, even skins for Mage, that's how old they were. We were originally going to have 3 skins per character, which went down to 2, then eventually 1, and the reason for this was the amount of work that Orange would have to do, and also the fact that adding more skins meant the game would come out a lot further in the future, and we didn't want this to happen. On the topic of skins and cosmetics, emotes haven't had much of a change since the last time I talked about them. We've had concepts for the emote ideas, but we've only ever stuck with the wave emote. Definitely add more at some point though, as there's not much to buy in the shop with your souls. Souls are the game's currency, since coins and whatever else is overused, so we thought of something cool. Finally, for these 2 months we had an update from the lobby. I had finally finished the character abilities and zombies. I'm sure there's still a lot of bugs to fix over there. I'll worry about that another time though. This meant I was free to rework the lobby from the 3D concept back to the original 2D idea. This lobby took a little over a month to make as I had a lot of schoolwork to do and assessments and a lot to do. I was also lazy, but I've already said that I'm trying to fix that. Okay. At the moment, the lobby GUI works well. Just needs some polishing as it doesn't really feel good to use. It's kind of just eh. CE24 helped with the concepting of the new lobby featuring Green Slasher, and Comfort was at last creating the actual credit icons for all developers that have and are still working on the game, since the credit concepts were made back in October. The most recent devlog was a quick summary of all the work that we'd done since the devlog before that. Some of the summarized things include finished map, lobby, improvements, and some future stuff like testing and updates. We've also recently added the receptionist to the parties menu. She's not really relevant to anything at the moment, but she's there and that's cool. I also plan to have Z/'s first phase of testing, where anyone in the Discord can sign up to become a tester and report on the game's bugs, features and gameplay feel, which is very, very important. However, I am not looking forward to fixing the entire game pretty much, as I feel like everything is buggy. So I might take a break from Z/ after the first release and work on some other games that I've been wanting to make for a while, as I love making games, and working on the same game for nearly a year is very draining. As you can see by this video, our team has done an amazing job at sticking to this game's development, and it would be really motivating if you could like, subscribe, join the Discord, and share this video with everyone you've ever met, so we can spread Z/ to as many people as possible. A bit like a zombie apocalypse infection. But thank you so much for watching this video. It's crazy to go back and see everything we've made for this game, and how long it's taken to actually make everything. If you're an artist, I usually put the art from people in the Discord here, so join the Discord and post your art there to have your art at the end of the video. Adios.